I will start registering my presentation about Şerif Mardin. Okay, Şerif Mardin is also born around, okay, according to one source I read, 1925. According to another, 1927. So Mübeccel Kıray'a was born in 1923. So they are more or less close to each other. Actually, Nermin Abadan-Unat'a is also around this time. So all three are born more or less in the middle of 1920s. 1920s. Okay. Şerif Mardin's family is a famous aristocratic family, actually. Mardin's family. For example, his father was an ambassador, of Turkish Republic, and for example, two famous intellectuals in Turkey, in addition to Şerif Mardin, he's the father of Şerif Mardin, but uncle of Arif Mardin and Betül Mardin. Arif Mardin and Betül Mardin. And Şerif Mardin's mother was daughter of Ahmet Cevdet Pasha. Ahmet Cevdet Pasha is a very significant Ottoman intellectual. He is the head of the committee who wrote Ottoman Constitution, Mecelle, a constitution which for the first time, a written constitution for the first time, and combined religious tradition, local non-religious Ottoman tradition, and Western commercial tradition. Now this is a text, this is a legal text, a constitution, which combines three different and heterogeneous sources of rights, legal relationships, commercial relationships, civil relationships, etc., etc. So that is the author Ahmet Cevdet Pasha, and his daughter is Şerif Mardin's mother. Okay. Now, this father and mother chose their son to be educated in United States. So Şerif Mardin graduated from lycée in United States, and then continued his education and obtained his BS from Stanford University and his MA from Johns Hopkins University, and his PhD again from Stanford University. Okay, but in 1958 he got his PhD. But before he got his PhD, in the pre-PhD period, he joined Ankara University Faculty of Political Science. So between 1954 and 56, he was there. And while he was a faculty member, he was also politically active. And he joined a group which established Hürriyet Partisi, Freedom Party, which was in opposition to Democratic Party and People's Republican Party, two main parties, as a liberal party, actually. But it didn't survive. And then he went to Stanford and obtained his PhD. In the meantime, he started working in Harvard University. And then he came back to Ankara University, Political Science faculty, and worked there between 1964 and 73. So while he was in Ankara University Political Science faculty, He was part-time teaching in Middle East Technical University in my department of social sciences. Actually, it was already, there was a section of a pre-department of sociology and department of psychology, but still under the umbrella of Department of Social Sciences. So, for example, I had my political sociology, political sociology course from Şerif Mardin. Yes, so he was my professor in I think this course he taught in 1967. Okay, in my third year, I remember. Okay, now after, in 1973, in the same year that Mübeccel left Ankara, Middle East Technical University, Şerif Mardin left Ankara University and went to Boğaziçi University. And he founded Department of Political Science there, and he was the head of that department from 1973 to 1991. Now, in 1999, he retired from Boğaziçi University and joined Sabancı University until 2013. And in that year, in 2013, he retired again from Sabancı University and joined Şehir University. So he was a professor of Şehir University when he died in 2017, 3 years ago. He died 3 years ago. Okay. Now, as I said, he had his PhD from Stanford University, and that PhD was published as a book in 1958 with the title of Young Ottoman Movement, a study in the evolution of Turkish political thought in 19th century. This is, this is a book about Ottoman 19th century, the Ottoman, young Ottomans, which evolved into young Turks, and young Ottomans, Namık Kemal, or his grandfather, Ahmet Cevdet Pasha, grandfathers, they are Ottoman intellectuals. So this is a thesis, a PhD thesis, and a book, which is one of the most significant contributions to the understanding of Ottoman intellectual life and its transformation into Young Turk movement of 20th century, KUP, Committee of Union and Progress, and later the roots of intellectual life of Turkish Republican intellectuals. Okay. Now, in 1969, in Turkish, he wrote this book, Din ve İdeoloji. Now, in 1960s, a sociologist writing on religion, or a political scientist writing on religion, was rare. 1950s and 60s, Turkish intellectuals thought that Turkey is a secular country in all aspects, and religion, as if it is like religion in European countries, is in the private sphere. In the public sphere, there is no influence of religion. But Şerif Mardin said, no, you are mistaken. Religion is very much alive in Turkey, and even some of the European countries, like Spain, for example, or like Poland, where not Protestant version of Christianity, but Catholic in the countries where Catholic version of Christianity is dominant, religion is one of the factors in the public sphere. In Muslim countries and in Turkey, although officially religion is not in the sphere, is not intervening into the public sphere affairs, it is in the public sphere, and it is very much alive. So as sociologists, sociology of religion, like urban sociology, rural sociology, political sociology, should be a developed branch of sociology in Turkey. That was what he was saying. Now, in 1989, he published the result of his studies on religion. And the title of the book was Religion and Social Change in Modern Turkey. Religion and Social Change in Modern Turkey. So after 20 years, an English book, although in 1969, Din ve Ideoloji was mostly theoretical, there was only few data from his Izmir data, how Turkish identity is Turkish and Muslim. It is not Turkish alone or Muslim alone, but Turkish and Muslim, Muslim Turkish, Müslüman Türk identity is, he was saying in that book, as a result of his research in Izmir, is the main bulk of population's identity in Turkey. Yeah? He said that. Now, but the rest of the book of Din ve Ideoloji was sociology of religion, Weber and other sociologists of religion, how they can help to build a sociology of religion to study in Turkey and perhaps other Islamic countries. No, the book Din ve Ideoloji, Religion and Ideology in 1969. Whereas the book in 1989, Religion and Social Change in Modern Turkey, colon, The Case of Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. Now, this is published by SUNY, State University of New York Publications, State University of New York Publications. Now, in this book, Şerif Mardin talks about, sociology of religion, again, in a Muslim country, and how a religious leader, Bediüzzaman Said Nursi, who emerged actually in the in 1910s, he was already an actor there, and then how with the Republic he was arrested, but how in the prison he wrote all these pamphlets about the interpretation of Islam, which is more relevant to modern life. That is during 60s and 70s, anyway, 50s and 60s mainly. So Şerif Mardin studied how he established connections with the people in prison, and how they are transformed into new identities, new social, political, religious identities, who came out and scattered through Turkey and created a religious, social, political movement. This book is indeed, although it doesn't have much field study, it is mostly about memoirs, written materials, and collected work of Bediüzzaman Said Nursi himself and his students. Now, I will not go into that further. I will talk about one more classic of Şerif Mardin, which is published in 1973, in the year he left Ankara University and went to Boğaziçi University. Daedalus is one of the famous social science journals. In that journal, Şerif Mardin published this article, which is titled Center-Periphery Relations, a Key to Turkish Politics. Okay, now, the article starts with, society has a center. Yet, just as certain societies have stronger centers than others, the materials of which centers are forged vary greatly between societies. Middle East has had a long history of attempts to construct the institutional framework of such centers, even though efforts to marshal these free-floating resources were more than not ephemeral. Here, the Ottoman Empire emerged as an outstanding exception. So, he's developing this concept of center-periphery, which actually is first used by Edward Shields. And Edward Shields was my professor in the University of Chicago. And his article is a more theoretical one, center-periphery relations in societies in general, in modern societies mostly, but he also talks about pre-modern societies. Now, Şerif Mardin gives reference to Edward Shields and uses this approach to understand how Ottoman and Turkish politics is structured between a center, now in the Ottoman case, Istanbul, the center of Sultanate and the Caliphate, and Taşra, all the provinces, Diyarbakır province or Yozgat province, all the provinces in Anatolia and in the Balkans, the center, Merkez, Taşra, Istanbul, Taşra relationships, Merkez, Çevre, center, periphery relationships, and how from 1960s onwards, if we would like to understand Turkish politics, how the center that's established by the Republic during 1930s, and the first half of 1940s is being encroached by gradual coming together to center of periphery. How those institutions that went underground during 1930s, how after transition to multi-party system, how they gradually emerged, organized, marched towards the center, and being a part of the center or being dominant in the center. So in 1973, Şerif Mardin was already analyzing what will happen, as if he predicted what will happen during 1990s. The economic crisis in 1995, 2001, and establishment of Justice and Development Party, and it's coming to power in 2002. Now, actually, he directly talks about this coming to power of Justice and Development Party in an article that I put here also. It's called Islamic Exceptionalism. Islamic Exceptionalism. Now, he again, as he usually does, he goes back to Ottoman past and what was the relationship between religion and politics, religious thinking and political thinking during Ottoman period, 19th century, even 18th century, and how during Republic that underwent, together with going to underground of religious orders, and how in those religious orders, this religious thinking about politics became developed, resulting in a series of parties that are being established by Necmettin Erbakan, and then establishment of Justice and Development Party in 2002. Okay, now I hope you will read these articles. I also put another article which talks about power, civil society, and culture in Ottoman Empire, where Şerif Mardin says that there was no civil society in Ottoman society in early Turkish Republic, and that's why we have problems of democracy in Turkey. You can read that article too. And then I put 3 videos. One is just 15 minutes about neighborhood repression, mahalle baskısı. He coined a concept, mahalle baskısı, in this was, I think, 2008 or so. In a conference, he talked about that. But here in this television interview, and there are other political science sociologists who discussed that in NTV, actually. So he talked about how in Ottoman times, neighborhood was a social and political institution with the mosque, with the tarikat, with the tekke, with the esnaf, and other institutions in the neighborhood. And then how with the Republic introduced neighborhood, a new element, school. And school teacher came with school teachers' books and new books, new secular books. So the earlier religious traditional mahalle, and now a secular educational institution and a teacher entering there. So his famous Imam and Teacher, Who Won, Who Lost. Now, in this 15-minute video, he says that school teacher lost and Imam won. And said, why is that? Because, he says, although in the West, like in Germany, a philosopher like Kant, for example, emerges from a town and discusses everything, enlightenment, natural science, philosophy. There is a discussion of religion and new knowledge, natural science knowledge. Newton is already there. He's trying to have a Newtonian revolution within philosophy, and there are other philosophers following him, and before him, Spinoza and others, etc. Now, he says this kind of a discussion did not take place in Turkey for teacher. So teacher is left alone with some dry textbooks. And hence, teacher was not able to capture attention of residents of the neighborhood or of the village, and of the communities throughout Turkey. It is you can listen to that. I wish they recorded the rest of the discussion. All those other. There were 5 of them who discussed it. I think I listened to some of it, but I don't remember really. Anyway, it is that. But more interesting, there are 2 lectures by him that is registered in Şehir University about comparison of Robinson Crusoe and Haybin Yeksan, an Arabic pre-Robinson Crusoe novel, a novel written in 14th century, translated into Hebrew first, from Hebrew into Latin, and there are other translations directly from Arabic, etc., etc. So actually, the 2 works are related to each other, but they are different, and they discuss that. And there is also a material directly talking about Şerif Mardin's contribution, another video. I advise you to listen to these videos. Okay, now I will stop here and ask again, do you have any comments or questions about Şerif Mardin's approach to sociology?